If Saddam Hussein hadn't had a fondness for an Iraqi dish called Maskoof, he might have managed to avoid being captured by the Americans. The U.S. military searched for him for over 32 weeks, exploring every strategy they could think of. But Saddam Hussein, the former Iraqi president, was nowhere to be found. This mission wasn't just carried out by the U.S. Army. Elite U.S. Special Forces, CIA agents, the Defense Intelligence Agency, NSA, and even the FBI were involved. Thousands of personnel from these agencies were focused on tracking down one man, Saddam Hussein. Why was this one person considered such a danger to America? And in the end, how did they manage to locate Saddam Hussein, hidden underground in a secret pit? This whole story kicks off after the September 11th terrorist attacks in the United States, when Al-Qaeda struck targets in New York and Washington, D.C. The world watched as America reacted at the time, declared that any nation that supported terrorism would be treated as a threat. Even though Saddam Hussein, then the ruler of Iraq, had no direct link to the 9/11 plot, the U.S. was convinced that Saddam was backing various terrorist groups indirectly. Still, this accusation alone wasn't solid enough to justify a full-scale invasion. It became evident that the U.S. aimed to end Saddam's grip over Iraq, a control he maintained for 24 years by holding different official roles. To dismantle Saddam's regime, the U.S. needed a strong justification for war. That's when America started claiming that Saddam had hidden weapons of mass destruction, specifically nuclear arms within Iraq. Using this as the basis, the U.S. launched an invasion in March 2003. Alongside American troops, forces from the UK, Australia, and Poland joined the mission. Together, they stormed into Baghdad, reaching the capital within just 3 weeks. Saddam Hussein went into hiding. When the U.S. military entered Baghdad, there was no sign of him. U.S. forces captured the city, bringing an end to Saddam's 24-year-long rule. At Baghdad's Firdos Square, Saddam's statue was brought down in celebration of this victory. But though the statue had fallen, capturing the real Saddam Hussein was going to be far more difficult. The U.S. military now focused on locating Saddam and his senior officials. Finding Saddam became the top mission. Every U.S. soldier had clear orders. If they spotted Saddam or any of his 51 key men, they must capture or kill them immediately. The list of top targets included 52 names. To help soldiers recognize them, custom playing cards were created displaying the faces of Saddam and his officers. Since a deck has 52 cards, and there were 52 most wanted individuals, it was a perfect fit. While playing cards during downtime, troops would get used to recognizing U.S. forces scoured every part of Iraq. Homes were raided, family members were questioned, and nothing, from stores to schools to mosques, was off-limits. All they knew was Saddam was still inside Iraq, but his exact location remained unknown. This manhunt continued for several months, with no signs of Saddam or his sons. The U.S. later announced a massive reward for any information about Saddam or his sons. $15 million was offered for each of his sons, and $25 million for Saddam himself. Many Iraqis already disliked Saddam, so U.S. officials believed someone would turn him in for money. And that's exactly what occurred. A man approached an American military camp, claiming that Saddam's sons, Uday and Qusay, were hiding in his house. Initially, the troops were skeptical, but once the home was surrounded, it became clear Uday and Qusay were inside. Armed and refusing to surrender, they held their ground. Eventually, after failed negotiations, a missile strike, they found both Uday and Qusay dead. With their deaths, the last visible link to Saddam disappeared. Yet, the Americans didn't stop. Several of Saddam's aides were captured alive. but none shared anything helpful. After 4 months passed, the U.S. started considering the possibility that Saddam might have died in an earlier attack. Because of this belief, the intensity of the search began to decrease. Neither military action nor intelligence reports showed any proof that Saddam was alive. But then, unexpectedly, an audio message shifted everything. Saddam's voice was recorded in it, mourning the loss of his sons. This tape confirmed he was still alive. The U.S. renewed its hunt with urgency, increasing the reward from $25 to $30 million. Along with this, U.S. citizenship was also promised to the tipster. Attracted by this reward, people started making random claims, false tips, hoping they'd made the job harder for American forces. Nearly all the targets on the cards were captured, except for a few, including Saddam himself. Around this time, a DIA sergeant named Eric Maddox decided to use a different approach. He observed that most wanted individuals were Saddam's senior officials. Their influence came from Saddam. He didn't rely on them for survival. Maddox figured that the people Saddam truly needed now were his bodyguards. Saddam's security team was split into 3 parts. One guarded the palace, another scouted the places Saddam would visit, and the last group stayed right beside him. Maddox believed Saddam would need that last group most, so he began tracing them and reached Saddam's hometown, Tikrit. There, he questioned the son of one of Saddam's guards, Mohammed Ibrahim Omar, but the guard himself, servant of Saddam. The servant didn't say much, but did mention Saddam's favorite dish, Maskoof, a grilled fish meal popular in Iraq. Maddox remembered that during questioning, the guard's son mentioned his father liked fishing and owned a fish farm in a city named Samara. Maddox went to the fish farm, but Omar wasn't there. However, he found 2 fishermen. While they didn't seem linked to Omar, one of them was related to an Iraqi guerrilla fighter. After Saddam's fall, many of his officers began a guerrilla war against U.S. forces. These fighters were reportedly led by Omar, Saddam's trusted guard. One fisherman also talked about an uncle who surrounded that house in hopes of finding leads. To their surprise, Omar was hiding there. Omar was Saddam's personal bodyguard and often had Maskoof sent to Saddam from his fish farm. At that time, he was leading attacks against U.S. troops and was the only person who knew Saddam's location. He was silent at first after being arrested, but once Maddox assured him of U.S. citizenship for himself and his family, he agreed to talk. Omar revealed that Saddam was hiding in Ad-Dawr. Based on this info, the U.S. began searching Ad-Dawr. Near the Tigris River, they found 2 farmhouses, but both were empty. Just then, Omar, accompanying the team, pointed to a spot on the ground where a long rope lay. The rope led down into a small underground chamber. Its entrance was covered with styrofoam. When they removed it, only darkness could be seen. One soldier was about to throw in a grenade when suddenly a thick beard 2 came out and said, "I am Saddam Hussein, the president of Iraq." The U.S. forces had finally captured him alive. After 32 weeks of effort, Maddox's determination finally paid off. Later, analysts found that without the Maskoof clue, they may never have found Saddam. In the end, the reason for invading Iraq, the claim that Saddam had WMDs, was proven false. Even President George Bush confirmed that nothing was discovered. Thanks a lot for your support and kind feedback. See you again with another fascinating story.